Some old objects carry more than history, and some things should never be brought home. Story 1. The shop, curiosities and relics, smelled of cedar, trapped breath, and the slow rot of paper. I hadn't intended to stay long, but the dim, amber light of the store felt like a physical weight holding me in place. I'm an appraiser by trade. I see grandmother's jewelry and estate sale pottery every day. I know that old things carry history, but usually that history is inert. It's just dust and sentiment. I was wrong. In the back corner, tucked beneath a moth-eaten velvet shroud, sat a vanity mirror from the early Victorian era. It was heavy, framed in dark pitted mahogany. What caught my eye wasn't the ornate craftsmanship, but the glass itself. It was silvered and clouded, yet it possessed a strange, liquid depth, like a pool of oil waiting to be disturbed. I pulled out my jeweler's loupe to inspect the frame, looking for a maker's mark. As I leaned in, the reflection rippled. It wasn't the shimmer of light. It was a distortion, a slight lag in the projection of my own face. When I blinked, my reflection waited a fraction of a second too long to follow suit. My skin went cold. I reached out, pressing my thumb against the glass. It didn't feel like cold, hard silica. It felt tepid, yielding, and impossibly soft, like the surface of a drumhead made of wet skin. I pulled my hand back, heart hammering against my ribs. That's when I saw it. Wedged into the corner of the frame was a small, handwritten note, yellowed and brittle. I pried it loose with tweezers. The ink was faded, written in a cramped, frantic script. The glass does not hold what it sees, it holds who it takes. I have been watching myself from the other side for 40 years. Please do not look for your eyes in the dark. A muffled thud echoed from within the vanity. It wasn't a mechanical sound. It was the wet, dull strike of a fist hitting glass from the inside. I dropped the tweezers. I turned to leave, my boots scraping harshly against the floorboards, but the store felt different now. The aisles of antique clocks and porcelain dolls seemed to have shifted. The grandfather clock by the door, which had been silent before, began to tick, a slow, rhythmic sound that matched the thudding in my own chest. I pushed the front door open, but the sunlight outside was wrong. It was a pale, sickly gray, illuminating a street that looked like my own, yet lacked every sign of life. No cars, no wind, no distant hum of the city, just the oppressive stillness of a tomb. I looked back at the shop window. The reflection of the street was empty, but in the depths of the vanity mirror, still sitting on its pedestal inside the darkened store, I saw someone standing. It was me, and I was smiling, waiting for me to turn around. Story 2. The shop, curiosities and relics, smelled of ozone and wet wool. It was tucked into a blind alley in the city's oldest district, the kind of place that seemed to shrink away from the streetlights. I hadn't intended to go inside, but the rain had turned the cobblestones into ice, and the heavy oak door groaned open with a beckoning, rusted sigh. The proprietor was a man of indeterminate age, draped in a cardigan that looked like it had been woven from cobwebs. He didn't look up from his ledger. "The back room," he rasped, his voice sounding like dry leaves skittering over pavement. "The new acquisitions are there." I moved through the narrow aisles, brushing past tarnished tea sets and taxidermy cats with glass eyes that tracked my movement. At the rear, sitting on a velvet-lined pedestal, was a small, ornate music box made of dark, pitted silver. It felt heavy, uncomfortably so, and cold enough to burn my fingertips. There was no key, but as I touched the lid, the mechanism engaged with a wet, grinding click. The music that emerged wasn't a melody. It was a rhythmic series of thumps, muffled and irregular, like a heartbeat struggling against a rib cage. I reached for the lid to stop it, but my fingers brushed against a small groove at the base. I pressed it, and a hidden compartment clicked open. Inside wasn't a spring or a gear. It was a cluster of human teeth, yellowed and jagged, pressed into a bed of dried black hair. A chill crawled up my spine, but the horror didn't stop there. As I stared at the teeth, a faint, rhythmic vibration pulsed through the silver casing. I realized, with a nauseating jolt, that the box wasn't merely vibrating, it was breathing. The silver lid rose and fell with a subtle pneumatic hiss. I tried to pull my hand away, but my palm stuck to the metal. A thin, translucent filament, thinner than a spider's silk, shot out from the velvet lining and pierced the skin of my wrist. I yanked back, gasping, and the box tumbled to the floor. It didn't shatter. It landed with the dull, soft thud of a falling organ. The shop fell unnaturally silent. The proprietor appeared at the end of the aisle, his face now twisted into a sickening, wide grin that revealed teeth identical to those inside the box, too many and too sharp. "It requires a new host," he whispered, stepping closer. "The old one, it's grown quite tired." I looked down at my wrist. A small, dark mark was already beginning to bloom beneath the skin, pulsing in time with the thumping from the box. The heat in the room vanished, replaced by a tomb-like stillness. I turned to run, but the door I had entered through was gone, replaced by a solid wall of shelves stocked with 1,000 other silver boxes, all of them softly, rhythmically, beginning to hum.